Hey there, Virgo. I am doing a reading for you. These are timeless readings. So thanks for joining me. Let's see what's going on.
Um, there's something you've been doubting, some instinct you had, some feeling you couldn't shake, some truth you saw but others told you was wrong, and you're about to discover that your perception was accurate all along. You weren't imagining things, you weren't being paranoid, you weren't overreacting. You were seeing clearly while everyone around you was looking away. And that clarity, even though it was dismissed, is about to be validated in a way that can't be denied. Let me describe what this feels like. You may have been second guessing yourself for a while, questioning your own judgment, wondering if maybe you were the problem, if maybe you were seeing things that weren't there or making mountains out of molehills. Some people experience this as crazy making. They know what they see, they know what they feel, but everyone around them is telling them they're wrong. And eventually, they start to believe the doubt more than their own knowing. It might feel like you've been gaslit, not necessarily intentionally, but the effect is the same. Your reality was denied so consistently that you started denying it yourself. But here's what's shifting. The truth you saw is becoming impossible to ignore. And validation is coming whether you're ready for it or not. Let's pause here. This reflection invites you to consider, what have you been doubting about yourself that you actually knew was true? Maybe it was about a person, you sensed they weren't trustworthy, you felt something off about their energy, you noticed inconsistencies in their stories, but everyone else thought they were great, so you told yourself you were being judgmental or too critical. You may have ignored red flags you saw clearly because acknowledging them would have required action you weren't ready for, so you convinced yourself you were wrong instead. It's possible you're about to see proof that your instincts were right, that the person you had concerns about is exactly who you thought they were, that your gut wasn't lying to you. Or maybe it was about a situation you knew something wasn't working, you felt the dysfunction, you saw the writing on the wall, but everyone told you to be patient, to give it more time, to stop being so negative. Some people spend years in situations they knew were wrong because everyone around them insisted they were right. They override their own knowing to maintain peace or avoid judgment. You may have done that, stayed longer than you should have, accepted less than you deserved, participated in something your gut was screaming at you to leave. And now you're going to see why your gut was screaming. You're going to understand that your instinct to leave was protective, that you were right and everyone who told you to stay was wrong. It can feel vindicating and painful simultaneously, like I told you so, mixed with I wish I'd listened to myself sooner. This reflection invites you to consider, how long did you ignore your own knowing to accommodate other people's opinions? There's something specific about what you were right means. It's possible being right doesn't feel as good as you thought it would, because being right about something negative means you saw danger that others missed, and there's no joy in that. You may have wanted to be wrong, would have preferred to discover that your concerns were unfounded, that your instincts were off, that the person or situation was actually fine and you were just being paranoid. But you weren't wrong. And now you have to sit with that, with the knowledge that you saw clearly and others didn't, that you could have protected yourself sooner if you'd trusted yourself more. Some people expect to feel triumphant when they're proven right, like finally everyone will see what they've been seeing, like validation will heal the wound of being doubted. You may be discovering that vindication doesn't heal as much as you hoped. It confirms you weren't crazy, but it doesn't undo the time you spent doubting yourself. Doesn't erase the damage done while you were overriding your instincts. It can feel lonely to be right when everyone else was wrong, like you're standing alone in your perception while others are still catching up. This reflection invites you to consider, does being proven right feel like victory or just sad confirmation? Let me talk about why this validation matters. It's possible the most important part isn't that others now see you were right. It's that you now have proof you can trust yourself, that your instincts are reliable, that your perception is valid even when others disagree. You may have been operating with damaged self-trust, constantly checking with others before believing your own observations, needing external validation before acting on internal knowing. Some people lose confidence in themselves after being dismissed enough times. They start outsourcing their knowing, treating other people's perspectives as more valid than their own. You may have been doing that, and this validation is your opportunity to reclaim your self-trust, to remember that you see clearly, that your instincts are worth listening to, that you don't need everyone else to agree before you believe what you know. It can feel scary to trust yourself more than others, like you're being arrogant, like you're refusing to consider other perspectives. But trusting yourself isn't arrogance. It's just giving your own perception the same weight you give everyone else's. It's not assuming they're right and you're wrong by default. What you might need to do is apologize to yourself for all the times you didn't listen, for all the times you overrode your knowing to keep peace, for all the times you chose being liked over being protected. Some people skip this step. They focus on being vindicated externally and forget to repair the relationship with themselves, forget to acknowledge how much they betrayed their own knowing. You may need to sit with yourself and say, I'm sorry I didn't trust you. I'm sorry I chose other people's comfort over your safety. I'm sorry I made you doubt what you saw clearly. It can feel dramatic to apologize to yourself, like you're being too intense, like you should just move forward without dwelling. But self-betrayal is real, and it deserves acknowledgement. You can't rebuild self-trust without first recognizing where it was broken. Let me talk about what you do with this validation. It's possible you're tempted to say, I told you so, to everyone who doubted you, to rub their faces in the fact that you were right and they were wrong, to make them acknowledge that they should have listened. You may feel entitled to that vindication, and maybe you are. But ask yourself if it would actually feel good, or if it's just your hurt wanting to hurt back. Some people waste their vindication on proving points to people who won't hear them anyway, who'll find new ways to dismiss even when evidence is undeniable. You may be better served by simply noting who saw your truth and who didn't, who trusted your perception and who gaslit you, and using that information to decide who gets access to you going forward. Because not everyone deserves to stay in your life after proving they won't protect your knowing. Some relationships don't survive the revelation that they consistently chose comfortable lies over uncomfortable truth. It can feel harsh to distance from people who doubted you, like you're punishing them for not being perfect, like you should forgive and forget. But forgiveness doesn't require maintaining the same level of access. You can forgive someone for not trusting you and still choose to trust them less going forward. What you might need is to set new standards and to decide that going forward, you listen to yourself first, that you don't override your knowing just because someone else disagrees, that you act on your instincts even when others think you're overreacting. Some people use validation as a one-time confidence boost, but then slip back into old patterns, back into checking with everyone else before trusting themselves, back into doubting their own perception. You may be tempted to do that, to let this validation pass without actually changing how you operate, to go back to seeking external approval before acting on internal knowing. But that would waste this moment. This is your opportunity to fundamentally shift how much you trust yourself. You remain in complete control of what you do with this validation. You can use it to rebuild self-trust, or you can let it be a temporary high that fades. The power is yours. It always has been. You may notice reading this has brought up specific situations where you knew something others denied, maybe relief at being validated, maybe anger at how long you doubted yourself. Whatever it is, honor it, take what resonates, softly release the rest, trust yourself. Before we close, I want to ask you something. What situation did you know the truth about before anyone else believed you? Drop it in the comments if you want to acknowledge it. And this, what would change if you trusted your instincts immediately instead of waiting for external validation? You were right the whole time about the person, about the situation, about the red flags you saw that others dismissed. And being right doesn't mean you get a prize. It just means you see clearly. And clear sight is its own gift, even when what you see isn't pleasant. Not eventually. Now you know. Trust yourself with this. Trust that this validation isn't about proving yourself to others. It's about proving to yourself that you can be trusted, that your instincts are sound, that your knowing deserves respect. I'll see you in the next one. And listen, being proven right is closure. What you do with that closure is rebuilding the self-trust you lost by doubting yourself. You were right. Now trust that you're right about other things too. Start there.